My name is Chaddick, and I'm
is it Chaddick? I'm sorry.
That's correct.
I was getting you related to the dean.
We're pretty close. I don't think that we're actually related, though. I'll have to go back and look at the genealogy for sure. But
well, it'd be all right. You appreciate it.
Well, I'm for it. So maybe we are related in that sense. I am in support of House Bill 2019. I am a pastor of Northeast Baptist Church in San Antonio, Texas. Passing out to you a little bit of expanded of my comments. About 3 years ago, I became involved in this issue as a pastor, certainly not with any intent to have any sort of political involvement, but simply as doing my work of a pastor, and had a family in our church that had a specific need. And I will say that in my 5 years in San Antonio, I have never had a church member who has come to me and said, we have a problem with a payday loan. What they have come to me and said is that we have a problem making our rent this month, or we have a problem paying our car payment, or we have a problem making our utility bill. It's only as we began to ask some more questions that we discover that the reason that they can't make their rent is because they're paying on a payday loan, or the reason they can't pay for their car is because they're making a payday loan. And this was one of those cases. About 3 years ago, we had a family of 6 who had taken a payday loan of about $700. They had rolled that $700 loan over 9 times at $200 a rollover with the interest and fees, and all that amounted to 740% APR. I was like someone who testified a few moments ago. After I heard that, my first thought was that can't even be legal, and that's when I began making some phone calls and discovered that it was. What happened was that we ended up paying the loan off. My church did, because we felt that the only way to get them out and get them flush again was to get them out from under the loan. So we helped them with the rent for their house, but we also paid off the loan that they had before them. And I told that story 2 years ago to the Senate Committee on Business and Finance, simply because I found those numbers just shockingly unjust, and I hope that others would as well, and thought that there was something that needed to be done about that. Since that time, I've gotten better about asking questions of those who have come to me desiring help with their rent and help with their car payments and help with their utilities. And again, it's in those asking of those other questions I have discovered that oftentimes behind the scenes, bleeding off the money that they would use to live, is the fact that they have fallen in with one of these and it continues to roll over and they have been unable to get out of it. And so, again, I stand before you and advocate that we need some help for our consumers on the consumer side of this, to help them and guide them and protect them from these kinds of products. Let me say I've also heard other stories with similar numbers to the 740% interest, some stories with even worse numbers. And I've witnessed how extended families have been drawn into the cycle of debt. I know of one daughter who has had trouble paying her rent because she was helping her mom try to keep her car with an auto title loan. So it affected not just one, but it affected 2. I have seen others, where our church and other churches have had to step up to the plate and use our benevolence monies to help people get out from underneath these loans, or watch our families slide into homelessness, or perhaps lose their children to protective services because they couldn't afford to keep their utilities connected. So I've also considered that the taxpayers of the state are forced to fund the payday industry as they get trapped in their cycles of debt. And I have to admit that the more I hear the numbers and the more I hear the stories, the less emotional impact they carry for me. 700, 800, 900% interest no longer moves me like it once did. And I think that's probably true, that these shock values of these numbers are ultimately lost on all of us who deal with this often enough. So let me step back a moment and take an immoral approach. I do that simply because I'm a pastor, but also because I see that our moral inclinations are being desensitized by the sheer volume of these kinds of stories. And also because I hear a decided shift in the discussion away from thoughts about moral responsibility to a supposedly more amoral standard for our decision-making. More and more I'm hearing appeals to the market. And I've lost count of the number of times recently that I've heard the phrase, the market will bear it, in discussions about these kinds of loan products. And so I'd like to point out that the market is a poor standard for helping us measure what is good for ourselves and good for our fellow citizens and good for our state. The market will continue to bear a great many things that are not good. It bears all manner of human rights abuses around the world under the guise of supply and demand. But we don't really have time to elucidate all the things the market will bear. We do know that market bears some things that we call good, and we certainly encourage those good things. But some of those things that the market does bear, we've said that it should not bear. And these things we've either sought to eliminate completely or we've sought to regulate. And either way, we've acted out of a moral impulse for the good of our citizens and for our own protection. In every case, we've looked at the amoral market and sought to influence it with our moral judgments. So the market is wholly without moral sensibility. And it's up to us, and more specifically, it's up to you, to invest that market with moral guidance. Clearly, the market will bear 700% short-term loans. And clearly, the market will bear the entrapment of families into cycles of debt. That the market will bear it, but my question to you is, should it? And that's really my advocacy on this. I don't think that it should bear these kinds of loans. I think that we can speak a moral word to that and say that this is simply wrong and rein this in. And the fact is that other states have acted and enacted regulations for these industries, and the industry still operates in most of those states, which says to me that the market will bear regulation. The market bearing it is not the ultimate factor, though. Ultimately, I say we have a moral word to speak into it, and our moral word is that the oppression of the poor and the oppression of those who are vulnerable and the giving to people unhelpful products that trap them into cycles of debt is simply wrong, and we need to do something about it. House Bill 2019 goes some measure toward helping that be true. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Chaddick. Members, any questions? Appreciate you coming up here. Your discussion on the amorality of the market is enlightening.
Thank you.